This is way worse than we thought, as another injury for Aaron Rodgers has been revealed by head coach Jeff Ulbrich, and we have to break this down as the Jets season just takes another hit. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into the video, as always, guys, because here's the deal. We know Aaron Rodgers has been dealing with nagging injuries, as most quarterbacks and running backs and most skill players who play in high volume do, but Rodgers is obviously 40. He's the quarterback for this team, and he's had a bit of an underwhelming season thus far, and all of this has cultivated into a lot of eyes on him, and according to Jeff Ulbrich, Rodgers has been hit again by an injury. Now, we saw this happen, as mentioned, that Aaron Rodgers is dealing with a knee injury. That's from the Vikings game, an ankle injury, and now a hamstring injury as his hamstring flared up during the Steelers game, and it may have impacted Aaron Rodgers' mobility. And I mean, the only thing to really say here is this is just another hit to a season where it feels like a Murphy's Law season or a New York Jets Law season, because every year, anything that can go wrong for the Jets manages to go wrong. Obviously, there's still time, but when you're a 2-5 team, you're most likely not making the playoffs. The Jets have ownership to the 5th pick in the draft, something none of us expected this season, so it's just not been a blast to be a Jets fan as per usual. But with Rodgers being injured, it definitely raises some questions going into Week 8, and especially with a game against the Patriots, the Jets, I mean, they have to win it at this point. The playoffs are officially just done no matter what, 0% chance instead of the 5 we have now. So, Matt, I mean, obviously it's a huge hit. Obviously, this sucks. Rodgers is old. Injuries happen. And it appears that he will be playing, just really not at full strength. Does this injury worry you at all, or is this just another absolute punch to the face?
Yeah, this injury doesn't worry me too much, Chris. So many NFL players, they go through the season, they pick up these nicks, bumps, bruises, and they never show up on the injury report, but they're dealing with them, and they can usually play through these smaller injuries, but they just, they just say it's football, I'm gonna tough it out, and they keep playing. Now, the number one thing that we can't let this injury do is spiral out of control into something that the Jets can use as an excuse of why the season isn't going well. We know that Aaron Rodgers hasn't played up to the level that we expected him to play at, so we don't want to see any excuses coming out or blaming it on the injury, blaming it on anything else. We also got to make sure that we keep Aaron Rodgers protected. Quarterbacks, we saw Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson go down this week. We've seen plenty of other quarterbacks in the NFL this year get injured, like in our own division. It happens. That's why you got to have a backup quarterback that when your quarterback misses 2, 3, 4 games, you don't look at the schedule and go, wow, those 4 games are definitely losses. You have a guy like a Tyrod Taylor who we brought in over the offseason this year, a guy like that who you can look at and say, maybe he gives us a chance to win this game. So maybe we can go 2-2 or 3-1 instead of just 0-4 or 1-3. So Tyrod Taylor would give us an extra chance should Aaron Rodgers have to miss time. I don't foresee him missing time because Aaron Rodgers knows that it's go time. This season, we've already used all of our mulligans. You got in the AFC, you should be winning 10 games if you want to make the playoffs. 9 games, outside chance that that's good enough. 80% chance that that's not good enough, but there still is that 20% chance that that would be good enough. The Jets, of course, would have to go on a run here to make it to that 9 or 10 games. So far, the Jets have shown us no reason why they could go on that run, but if we were to go on that run, it has to start with protecting Aaron Rodgers. It has to start with the entire offensive line playing better. We are going to see whether Jeff Ulbrich leaves Tyron Smith in at left tackle or gives Olu Fashanu, the first-round pick out of Penn State, 11th overall in 2023, to see if he gives him a shot at left tackle. He played right tackle for a game in spelling Morgan Moses after his injury, and Olu didn't play as well as I thought he would. His natural position is left tackle, but he has the skills to play right or left. So hopefully, if he was called upon to play left tackle, he would play a little bit better than he did at the right tackle position, which I really think he can, but we got to see what happens. So Aaron Rodgers got to be protected. Can't let these injuries pile up, which Jets have been subjected to a bunch of injuries already this year, mostly in the secondary. Just got to keep Rodgers healthy, because if Rodgers goes down, the season is 100% over. There's no way to save it.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely not. And I mean, yeah, Rodgers has not had a great season, but he's still a good enough quarterback for this level of talent team. And I mean, this year, Rodgers, in 7 games, He has he has 10 touchdowns, but he also has 7 interceptions. The numbers are just not what any of us expected out of Aaron Rodgers this season, and certainly that sucks. And he's coming off an Achilles injury. He's 40 years old, and it's not the most shocking thing ever that he's not the gunslinger back-to-back MVP that he was a few years back. But in order for this team to turn around, Rodgers is going to have to start playing better, and it wouldn't be shocking if, as the season goes on, he gets better and better, considering, he's coming off an Achilles injury, and that tends to happen with athletes of any sport, where the more time away from it, you are going to pick up speed and get back to your normal self. Now, look, I do think the Jets are going to have a better second half of the season. I know we're not at the halfway mark yet, but I do think the Jets are going to pick it up. It feels like this terrible stretch of, what is it now? They've dropped 4 games in a row? Yeah. I mean, it feels like this isn't going to last. It just, obviously, they haven't won a game in a month, so it feels like it's going to last forever on one side of things. But it just feels like at some point in these, they're going to get on a heater. It feels like, it wouldn't be shocking to see this team turn it around and start picking up some steam. Rodgers is going to keep having nagging injuries, and so is basically everyone else who's playing skill positions of high usage. It doesn't matter who, it's football. It's the contact sport. I mean, the only sport that's arguably more brutalizing on the body that is the 4 major Americans is the NHL, and that's a completely different type of physicality. So you're looking at this, it's hard to compare any sport to football. It's a very different sport. It's hard to compare sports in general. And the thing is, you need Rodgers to be better. You need him to come back. You need him to be better health-wise and just better talent-wise. And obviously the addition of Davante Adams is going to help that. It was Adams' first game with the Jets where it just felt like there was a nightmare going on. But I just refuse to believe that a team that has this much talent is going to be worse than the team from Sauce Gardner and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and Jermaine Johnson's, what a draft, their rookie year. Like, they went 7-9 that year and looked like they were on the brink of something big if they could just get even a modestly talented quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is more than a modest quarterback. He's still at least some of that MVP player. It's hard to imagine he's not. The Jets they have to start winning games now. And against the Patriots, it feels like it's a lock to win, but no game is a lock when you're a 2-5 team to win. So if they can go in there and get that win, I mean, obviously it's a step in the right direction. You're 3-5. 3-5 looks a lot better than 2-5. For some reason, it makes it feel like your season's alive, but you have to keep capitalizing off that and go on a real run. So what do the Jets do to prevent Rodgers from picking up more injuries? Or is there nothing to do with that and we just have to let the season kind of unfold and get the vibes down and get everyone on the same page, if that can still happen?
Yeah. So we already talked about we got to protect him better, which is still the case. And usually when your quarterback's getting hit, you say, well, he's got to get rid of the ball faster. But Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what the exact number is. It's 2 point something low. Fastest time to get rid of the football in the entire league. Fastest snap to throw. So that can't get better. He's not going to be able to throw the ball faster. So the way to protect Aaron Rodgers is, 1, protect him better. 2, run the ball better so we can run the ball more and don't have him dropping back as much and taking as many hits. But Chris, that's how we protect him. But you're talking about the Jets going on a run, but I struggle to see how they could go on a run, because the reason why we had so much hope for this season was because they have such a talented roster. But so far we've seen that this roster just doesn't work well together at all. So they're 2-5, and we have seen no reason to believe that they're going to be better going forwards. Yes, the schedule gets easier going forwards, so that's something. After this Patriots game, which needs to be a win, the season is 100% over should they lose to the Patriots. Yeah. Next, they have the Houston Texans, who are a good team, but definitely beatable. There's no team that isn't beatable by a team that's this talented. Yeah. Texans are beatable. After that, we're playing some really, really easy teams. Like, we have the Colts. We got, I believe the Cardinals are up there as well. Definitely beatable teams. This team, the schedule to go on a run is there. The question is, do we have the players to go on the run? We have the talent, but they're not playing well together. They're not playing as a team. Everyone in the media is saying completely correctly, the Jets have a roster, not a team, meaning they have a bunch of great players who on their own do things very well together, but they don't play as a team at all. The team lacks leadership, which comes from the fact that their head coach was fired after 5 games. So there's no head coach that came in and put his mark on it. No culture has been created. The only culture that we see seems to be the lack of accountability, the small mistakes culture. The problem is every single game, every single player seems to take their turn making one tiny little mistake. Unless you're Garrett Wilson, then you play really, really well and make a major, major, major mistake. But everyone's just making tiny little mistakes. Maybe it's a wrong route from Mike Williams. Maybe it's a fumble from Breece Hall. Maybe it's a holding penalty by Tyron Smith. Maybe it's a missed field goal by Greg Zuerlein, or two or three missed field goals by Greg Zuerlein. The point is, it's not just one person. It's everyone. We know that pretty much every position is as talented as it gets. PFF going through the season has each positional group on defense, D-line, linebacker, secondary, ranked as the number 1 unit in the NFL. That hasn't changed. We got the guys to go on a run and be a playoff team, but the guys got to step up. They got to play together. The coaches got to coach better. Everything needs to improve. Woody Johnson, he put the team in a pretty much impossible situation. Trying to make the playoffs with an interim head coach has only happened in, I believe it was 2020, maybe it was 2021, when they fired John Gruden 4 years into a 10-year contract. He was fired for off-the-field issues. It wasn't on-the-field issues. After a coach has been fired because of on-the-field problems, such as Robert Saleh has, they've never made the playoffs. Are the Jets the exception to the rule? I can't see how they could be.
Yeah, neither could I. And I mean, I'm just looking at the standings here in the bottom of our screen, and it's like, how do the Falcons have so many more wins than us? And all these teams that the Jets are so much better than on paper. They're one game better than the Panthers. Like, the Seahawks, like, all these teams, how? Like, it's hard to believe. When the 49ers beat the Jets in week 1, it felt like the Niners were that same team. Then we've seen all year the Niners are not that same team at all. 3-4. It's incredible how disappointing this has all been.
Wait, Chris, but one more thing I forgot to talk about with the fact that the team just doesn't look good enough. The only teams that we have beaten have one win each. It's the Patriots, who are
1-6.
One of the worst teams in the league, and then the Titans, 1 win, one of the worst teams in the league. The Patriots are full rebuilding. The Titans are checking to see if Will Levis is their long-term quarterback, and they already found their answer. He's not.
He's not.
But he was good enough for the first half.
He's running out of time like you, Matt.
Dude, I mean, I don't. Yeah, he is. I don't want to like hate on him because you don't want to see guys bust, but not everyone's gonna make it, of course. But the Jets, the wins we have, we've only won we've only won gimme games. Anything that hasn't been a gimme, the Jets have lost in this magnificent fashion. It feels like people have said this for years, and it just seems more and more true this year. The Jets invent new ways to lose, and
they do.
That Garrett Wilson catch, like not a catch. Let me reiterate that was not a catch. Garrett Wilson off his shoulder and into the hands of Beanie. His name is Beanie or something. That was horrific to see, dude. Horrific.
Just awful. But guys, there's still hope if they could just win against the Patriots, beat the Texans, go on a little run. I really do think the second half of this season will look a lot better. Hopefully it's just not ruining a draft pick, and hopefully you can stand for something.
Hey,
guys,
Chris,
yeah.
If the Jets are bad, at least we have the Knicks, right?
We got the Knicks. It's all right. They're fine.
Maybe.
They're fine.
They only lost
lost
by 32, Chris. They only lost by 30 as well.
Kevin Durant's Golden State Warriors lost their first game by 29 points. So if the Knicks are 3 points off against the team that's better than those San Antonio Spurs were, then I'll tell you one thing. The Knicks are going to be just fine behind Jalen Brunson. Jalen, send us out of here. Guys, have a great day, and go Jets. And I can't stop recording for some reason.